This lesson is on area and perimeter. So we're going to find 3 different shapes, and one of the shape is the rectangle. So the rectangle is base times the height to find the area. The base is the bottom portion of this right here, and the height is going to be this part right here. So once we know those two numbers right there, if we multiply them together, that's going to give us the area. The perimeter is we're going to add up all the sides. Now, if I know the base of this number, I also know this number up here in the top because they're equal distance. If I know the height of this number right here, I also know the height of this number because they're equal distance. So I will know all the numbers of the sides of the rectangle, and so I can add them all up and get the perimeter right here. The next shape is going to be the parallelogram. So parallelogram is very similar to the rectangle. So the rectangle we said was this right here, our base right here, and then the height. So for the parallelogram, we take this shape and we basically stretch this corner. We stretch this corner right here to make it look like this shape right here. So this is a parallelogram. There's going to be a side that has a slant. So that's the difference between a parallelogram and a rectangle, where the rectangle does not have a slant right there. Once I know what a parallelogram looks like, I'm going to take is the same thing, the base right here, and the height to find the area right here. Now to find the perimeter, I'm still adding up all the sides right there, but now that we got a tricky part, because I know this base right here is the same number as this base right here, but this is something I will not know, the side of the parallelogram right here, so I won't know this side either. So we're going to use the distance formula to figure out what the length of the side is, because once I know one side, I also know the same distance on the other side. So we'll have all the measurements on the outside of this parallelogram, and we can add them all up to find what the perimeter is right here. The last shape we have is a triangle. So triangle, if you look at it carefully, it is actually half of a rectangle. So because of that, our formula is the base times the height, which is the rectangle, but we also want to divide it by 2 because the shape of this is going to be half of the rectangle right here. So once I know what this base is, I know what this height is, I can multiply those together and divide it by 2. The perimeter is to add up all the sides still. So we have is this side, we have is this side. So this side is probably the side you're going to have to look for. And again, using the distance formula, I will find what this side is right here. And then I have all 3 sides, so then I can add them all up to find out what the perimeter is. Now let's look at an example. So example 1, you're going to be given points like this, and we're going to plot out the points. So 2, 6 from the origin, if I go 2 on the x-axis and 6 on the y, I should land up somewhere around here. And then 2, 1 right here. So same thing, from the origin, I'm going to go 2 and 1 up, so which is halfway from here. Then 7, 1, so from the 0, 7 on the x-axis, which is halfway between 6 and 8. And then we're going to go up 1. Then we have is 7, 6. So same thing, we're going to go 7 and then 6 up. So we're going to land up here. And 2, 6 is the back when we come back to this form. So when we connect the dots, we're going to have this right here. Once I know what this is, the shape is what we're going to be asked to find. So to find the shape, that's going to be either one of the 3, which is the rectangle, the parallelogram, or the triangle. So since this side is not slanted, neither is this side right here, this is not a parallelogram, this has to be a rectangle shape. So rectangle shape it is. The next part is finding the distance. So the distance, once I graph this out, I know the distance from the 0 to here is 2, and I know the distance over here is 7. So between 7 and 2, if I subtract that, that's going to give me a distance of 5 right there. Now I need to find is the height. So I know this is a 1 right here. right? This is a distance of 1. And all the way up here is 6. So the distance between 1 and 6 right here would have to be 5. So if we label all the sides right there, then we're going to be able to find is the calculations for the area and the perimeter. So now let's calculate the area. So area again is going to be our base times the height. So if we take our base right here and we multiply to the height, it's going to be 5 times 5. That gives us 25. And the perimeter is to add up all the sides. All of our sides are 5. So if we add up 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, that's going to give us the 20. Example 2. If we plot out all of these points right here, we're going to get something like this right here. So the shape of this is obviously a parallelogram because the sides right here are stretched right there. Okay, so I know it's a distance. Now let's figure out the distance. So the distance from here to here is going to be a distance of 1 because between 0 to -2, halfway, is a 1. Now, this may be a little confusing because this right here, some of you guys may think is a distance of -1 since we went to the negative distance or negative side. But when we talk about distance, it is positive. So we can't have a -1 distance. This would have to be a distance of +1 right there. Now from this 0 point to all the way to the next point right here, that would be 5 because between 4 and 6 is 5 right there. So this is a distance of 5 plus the distance of 1 right there will give us a distance of 6 all the way up here. So if that's true, so is the bottom portion, which is the base down here. This should be 6 right there. Now we also need is the height. So the height is the distance of this portion right here. So looking at the y number, this right here is a distance of 1. So from here to here is a distance of 1. Now from here to the bottom portion right here is a distance of 3 because we are at -3 right there. So 3 plus the 1 should give us a distance of 4. Okay? Now we need to find out is the sides right there. So I need to know is the distance of this side or this side, either way, because we said that both sides are same equal distance, so I just need to figure out one side. So I'm going to use are the coordinates of -1, 1 for this point right there, and -2, -3 on this point right there, and use the distance formula. So distance formula says that we take our x's right there, we subtract them. So I take -1 minus a -2, and we square it right there, plus, because that's formula right there. And we do the same thing for the y. So we take our +1 minus a -3, and we square it right there. Okay? Now let's go ahead and simplify this. So simplifying just means making it smaller. And so in here I have a negative and a negative, which we need to combine our signs right there. And I also have a negative and a negative right here, so we need to combine our signs. So anytime we have a negative times a negative, that becomes a positive. So this is what it looks like. I keep my -1 right here. I keep this right here. I did my negative times negative, changed it into a positive, and gave it one sign. Then I keep my 2, I keep my exponent of 2 right there, I keep my plus, I keep my 1, and I do the same thing. Negative times negative gives me a positive, so that's where this positive comes about. And then we keep our 3, and we keep our squared right there. Okay? Now let's continue to simplify it more. So I have as -1 plus the 2, and I have as a 1 plus 3. So if we simplify that, that becomes -1 plus 2 is +1. 1 plus 3 gives me +4 right there. So we simplify that further. 1 squared and 4 squared should then look like 1 squared is 1 times 1, which is 1. 4 squared is 4 times 4. That gives us 16 right there. So now we add them together, and that's going to give us 17 with a approximation symbol right here because we're going to have to round it, and that becomes a 4.12. So on both sides right here, that's going to become 4.12. So now all my sides are discovered. Now I can do the calculations, and finding the area and also the perimeter. So to find the area, it's going to be base times the height still. So I know my base is down here, and I know my height is up here. So 6 times 4 gives me 24. To find the perimeter, I'm going to add up all my sides right here on the side, add up this side, and add up this side. Remember, we're not including is the height when we do the perimeter. So if we add up all the sides right there, that's going to give us the 20.24. Okay, and our last shape, after plotting out these points right there, that's going to give us this right here, and this shape is going to be a right triangle. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the distance of all the legs of that triangle. So from this point to this point is a distance of 2, because it's landing at 2 right there. From this point to this point is a distance of 3, because it's ending up at -3 right there. So 3 plus the 2 should give us then the 5 is the distance over here. Then we have is the height. So the height from this 0 point right there down here is a distance of 1. Distance from 0 to 3 is 3. So 3 plus the 1 should give us the 4. And now we don't know, is this distance right here? We're going to have to calculate this distance right here using the coordinates. And so we're going to put it into the distance formula. We have is -3 minus 2 squared. Then for the y, we have is -1 minus 3 squared. So that's with the setup right here. So now let's simplify this. So -3 minus 2, and then we have is -1 minus 3 is going to give us -5 and -4 right there. So that's what we get right here. So now -5 squared, then plus -4 squared. So that's going to look like 25 plus the 16. If we add those together right there, that's going to give us 41. When we take the square root of 41, it's approximately 6.40. So that is going to be the distance from this point to this point right here is going to be 6.4. Now once I know all my sides right there, we're going to go ahead and do the calculation. So to find the area, it's going to be base times the height divided by 2. As we mentioned, it is half of a rectangle shape. So we know its base is 5, the height is 4, so 5 times 4 is 20. Divided by 2 will give us then 10. To find the perimeter, we need to add up all the sides right there, so all 3 sides, and that's going to give us 15.40.